And as soon as we got in, we took off all our clothes, started pouring molasses onto each other and going, tar sands, delicious. And we're covered. It was all over the floor. I was out there camping and getting wet and getting arrested. You were too, right? You did protesting, and both kind of ended up in similar, well, not in similar places, in the same place. I used to think the exact same thing, that the water was radioactive and that it killed animals. And then a friend of mine sent me a paper about Fukushima, and the paper just proved, it's a scientific paper, it was really good data, just showed that nobody had died from radiation. So I ended up leaving a lot of the groups that I was a part of over that, actually. You know, I was a member of the Green Party, and I left over that. The first thing I did was the open letter to Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak, if you remember, when nuclear for net zero. First ever pro-nuclear protests in the UK, and they were so fun. And the second time we went down to the beach at Sizewell and had a swim in the sea outside Sizewell being a day. So they ended up both coming out on the same day, which was not intentional on my part, but it obviously made huge splash because of that. And then I had a report from the BBC ringing me and saying, why didn't you come to us with that story?
With dealing with, because you've suddenly now you're part of a movement. You know, there's people that there's colleagues of yours.
It's amazing. It's so brilliant. And everybody I speak to they're just so great. To be honest, the first time that I found any kind of tribe where I'm like, these people, I get it. And, you know, they're putting their energy into something good and into a good solution. And they tend to be a little bit geeky, which is my thing as well. I like that. I'm really happy when someone rings me and says, and this happens all the time, like, I'm going to do a banner drop. How big does a banner need to be? And I'm like, because they're starting right at the beginning. It's quite exciting for me. I mean, I've done this stuff for years. And I'm like, okay, wow, how big's your bridge? You know, have you thought about getting the little tabs on the side so you can tie it up with rope and having those really basic conversations? But it's exciting for me because, you know, I didn't know that stuff 15 years ago, but now it's really useful knowledge. And so, you know, Astrid would send me something and say, do you think this is a good idea? Should I do this? And I'll say, you never know what will take off, you know, give it a try and see